55 MPs Storm Oasis Forum meeting, here's what really happened. In a move that has sent shockwaves through Zambia's political landscape, 55 members of parliament, yes, 55, reportedly attended a meeting organized by the Oasis Forum. For years, this civil society alliance has been a watchdog for democracy, but never has it drawn such massive political attention. What exactly happened in that room? Who were these MPs? And what does this sudden unity signal for President Hakainde Hichilema's government and the opposition's future? Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of InspirAfrica Official. As you know, it's been quite a week here, filled with the usual political theater we've all come to expect. But today we're diving into something that has absolutely shaken the corridors of power to their very foundation. Picture the scene, a high-level parliamentary forum meeting. Carefully organized, meticulously planned, meant to be a space for constructive dialogue on critical national issues. The venue, secured. The agenda, set the stakeholders, gathered. And then, without warning, the doors burst open. Not with one or two concerned legislators, but with 55 members of parliament, storming in like a tidal wave of political fury. What could drive more than 50 elected representatives to abandon parliamentary decorum and stage what witnesses are calling an unprecedented disruption? Was this a spontaneous eruption of frustration, or something far more calculated? What secrets were being discussed behind those closed doors that provoked such a dramatic response? And more troubling still, who knew this was coming? Because here's what makes this story explosive: this wasn't just chaos. This was coordinated. This was planned. This was a message being sent, but to whom? And why now? What are the consequences when the very people tasked with creating our laws decide that the rules no longer apply to them? And perhaps most importantly, what was really happening in that Oasis Forum meeting that they were so desperate to stop? Factual foundation, background and timeline. The revelation came to light on what should have been an ordinary Wednesday morning at the parliamentary complex. The Oasis Forum, which stands for Open Alliance for Strategic Initiative and Solutions, had scheduled a closed-door session beginning at 9:30 de la mañana. This particular forum, established 3 years ago, serves as a cross-party platform where MPs, policy experts, and civil society representatives discuss sensitive governance issues away from the public spotlight and media glare. On this particular morning, approximately 30 forum members had gathered to discuss what sources describe as fiscal accountability measures and budget oversight mechanisms. Topics that, while technical, have significant implications for how public funds are allocated and monitored. By 10:15 de la mañana, the meeting was well underway. Participants were deep in discussion when, according to multiple witnesses, the main conference room doors were suddenly thrown open. What happened next was captured on security footage that has since become the subject of intense scrutiny. The timeline unfolds like this. 10:17 de la mañana. The first group of approximately 15 MPs entered the room, led by Opposition Chief Whip Marcus Adeyemi and several prominent backbenchers from both sides of the aisle. 10:18 de la mañana, within 60 seconds, another wave of parliamentarians flooded in security personnel, caught completely off guard, were unable to stop the influx. 10:22 de la mañana, the meeting room, designed for 40 people maximum, now held over 80 individuals. Voices were raised. Accusations were flying. The forum moderator, former Speaker Patricia Okonkwo, called repeatedly for order but was drowned out by the cacophony. 10:35 de la mañana, parliamentary security backup arrived, but by this point, the original Oasis Forum meeting had effectively collapsed. Several participants had left in frustration. Others remained, attempting to understand what was happening. 10:47 de la mañana, Forum leadership made the decision to officially suspend the meeting. MPs were asked to leave. Some complied. Others refused, demanding answers about the forum's agenda and funding sources. By 11:30 de la mañana, the conference room had finally been cleared, but the political damage was already done. Within hours, footage and witness accounts had leaked to the media, and what insiders are now calling the Oasis incident had become the nation's top political story. Direct evidence, quotes and testimony. In the hours and days following the disruption, key figures from both sides have come forward with their accounts, and these testimonies paint a picture of deep mistrust, alleged corruption, and political warfare. Opposition Chief Whip Marcus Adeyemi was among the first to speak publicly, addressing reporters outside Parliament that same afternoon. "Look, Ueme, we've been raising concerns about the Oasis Forum for months now. Months. And every time. Every single time, we ask questions about who funds these meetings, about who decides the agenda, about why certain discussions happen behind closed doors, we get stonewalled. We get told it's, parliamentary privilege, or, sensitive deliberations. Well, you know what? 55 members of parliament decided today that enough is enough. When you have a forum that's supposedly about transparency but operates in complete secrecy, when you have decisions being made that affect budget allocations worth hundreds of millions, and the majority of elected representatives are kept in the dark, that's not a forum. That's a cabal. When pressed on whether the disruption was planned, Adeyemi didn't deny it. Was it coordinated? Yes. Absolutely. We're not going to apologize for demanding transparency. If that means we have to, make some noise to get attention, then so be it. The real question people should be asking is not why we showed up, but why the forum leaders are so desperate to keep us out. Forum moderator Patricia Okonkwo, however, tells a completely different story. In an exclusive interview with parliamentary press, she expressed shock and dismay. I've been in politics for 32 years. I served as speaker for 6 of those years. And I have never witnessed such a blatant disregard for protocol and procedure. The Oasis Forum is not some secret society. It's a registered parliamentary body. Every meeting agenda is filed with the clerk's office 72 hours in advance. Every recommendation we make is public record. The forum doesn't have decision-making power, it's consultative. So this narrative that we're, some kind of shadow parliament? It's absurd. It's dangerous. And frankly, I think it's being pushed by people who don't want certain conversations to happen. When asked what was being discussed when the disruption occurred, Okonkwo was careful but clear. We were reviewing a proposal for enhanced budget tracking mechanisms. Specifically, we were discussing ways to close loopholes that currently allow for, let's say, creative accounting, in certain ministries. Now, I'm not going to name names or point fingers, but I will say this. There are people who benefit greatly from the current system's lack of oversight. And those people, they have allies in parliament. MP Chidinma Nosu, one of the 55 who entered the meeting, provided yet another perspective in a social media statement. They want to paint us as hooligans. As troublemakers. But here's the truth, I received information, credible information. That the Oasis Forum was discussing a proposal that would have effectively stripped backbenchers of our budgetary amendment powers. They were planning to centralize budget oversight in the hands of about 15 senior MPs, 15. Out of over 300. When I heard this, I reached out to colleagues. We agreed we couldn't let this happen without at least seeing the proposal for ourselves. We tried the proper channels. We filed requests. We were denied access. So yes, we showed up. And I'd do it again. But perhaps the most revealing testimony came from Dr. Emmanuel Okoro, a civil society representative who was actually in the Oasis meeting when it was disrupted. It was quite terrifying actually. The doors burst open and suddenly there were all these people shouting, demanding to see documents, accusing the moderators of corruption. He was sitting next to a colleague who was presenting data on procurement irregularities, very dry, technical stuff. And suddenly we're being called conspirators. One MP, I won't say who, was yelling that we were trying to steal Parliament's power. Another was demanding to know who paid for the meeting room coffee. The coffee. It was chaos. But here's the thing, in all that chaos, I noticed something strange. The leaders of this disruption, they weren't actually interested in the documents on the table. Several of us offered to share what we were discussing. They weren't interested. This wasn't about transparency. This was about intimidation. This was about sending a message, don't investigate too closely.
deeper analysis, implications and reactions. So what's really going on here? Because depending on who you ask, this incident is either a righteous stand for parliamentary democracy or a coordinated attack on accountability measures. And the truth, as always, is likely somewhere in the complexity between these extremes. The legal questions are significant. Parliamentary privilege allows MPs considerable freedom in how they conduct their business, but does that extend to disrupting registered parliamentary forums? Constitutional lawyers are divided. Professor Amina Bakr from the University of Lagos argues that while MPs have broad rights to access information and participate in parliamentary affairs, those rights don't include the right to physically disrupt lawfully convened meetings. Others, like attorney David Mensah, counter that if a parliamentary body is making decisions or recommendations that affect all MPs, excluding the majority of elected representatives could itself be unconstitutional. Political reactions have split almost entirely along factional lines, but not the factions you might expect. The ruling party leadership has been notably silent, with only junior ministers offering vague statements about respecting parliamentary processes. This silence is deafening because several of the 55 MPs who stormed the meeting are actually from the ruling party itself. Senior political analyst Grace Okoye notes, "This isn't government versus opposition. This is insider versus outsider." There are MPs from both major parties who feel shut out of key decisions, and there are MPs from both parties who benefit from the current system. That's what makes this so volatile. Opposition leader Thomas Bonde issued a carefully worded statement supporting the right of all MPs to access information while also calling for respect for established procedures. Translation: he's trying not to alienate either faction within his own party. Perhaps most tellingly, civil society organizations that normally push for government transparency are themselves divided. The Center for Parliamentary Accountability condemned the disruption as mob politics, while the Citizens Budget Coalition praised it as legitimate citizen representatives demanding answers. The broader implications extend far beyond one chaotic Wednesday morning. If the disruption was indeed about the budget oversight proposal, and multiple sources confirm this was at least part of the discussion, then we're looking at a fundamental power struggle over who controls financial accountability in government. Currently, budget amendments and oversight functions are distributed across various committees. The alleged Oasis proposal would have consolidated significant oversight power. Depending on your perspective, this is either necessary efficiency or dangerous centralization. There's also the question of forum governance more broadly. The Oasis Forum is just one of several cross-party platforms that operate with varying degrees of formality and transparency. Should all such forums be subject to open attendance? Should there be any space for confidential policy discussions? If 55 MPs can disrupt one meeting, what prevents similar tactics from being used against committee hearings, budget sessions, or even plenary debates? And then there's the elephant in the room: corruption allegations. Several of the MPs involved in the disruption have been subjects of ethics investigations in recent years. Conversely, some Oasis Forum members have family connections to government contractors. The accusations of corruption are flying in both directions, and with little hard evidence publicly available, it's nearly impossible for ordinary citizens to know who's acting in good faith and who's protecting their interests. International observers are watching closely. The African Governance Institute issued a statement expressing concern about the breakdown of parliamentary norms, while the European Democracy Foundation noted that internal legislative conflict often reflects deeper systemic issues with transparency and representation. What's clear is that this incident has exposed fractures that go far deeper than one disrupted meeting. Trust between parliamentary factions has eroded. The rules governing internal parliamentary operations are being tested. And the question of who really controls the legislative agenda remains dangerously unresolved. As one anonymous senior MP told reporters, "This isn't over. This is just the beginning." And that, viewers, is where we are right now. 55 members of parliament made a dramatic statement. The forum they disrupted has suspended operations indefinitely. Investigations have been promised by multiple parties. And the questions about transparency, power, and accountability remain as urgent as ever. Thank you so much for watching this edition of InspirAfrica Official. This is exactly the kind of story that requires all of us as citizens, as voters, as participants in democracy to stay informed and engaged. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Do you think the MPs were right to disrupt the meeting? Or did they cross a line? What should happen next? Should parliamentary forums operate with complete transparency, or is there legitimate need for confidential policy discussions? Your voice matters in this conversation. We'll continue following this story as it develops, and you can be sure we'll bring you updates as soon as new information emerges. There's clearly much more to uncover here, and we're committed to getting to the truth. Until tomorrow, when we'll be back with another story that matters, I'm Nakash. Stay informed. Stay engaged. And as always, stay inspired. Take care, everyone.